Alright, it's time, it is time. Yeah, Brosthany Fantano here, the internet's busiest Street Fighter 6 player. And it's time for another episode of Let's Argue. I put out the call. I asked the good people of Twitter to reply with their hot SF6 takes if it's about the game, season, characters, mechanics, or anything else they want to get off their chest. And I said I would review the best ones. I did specify the best ones because I got an obscene number of replies to this. I got like, what, 522 replies and a bunch of quote retweets as well. So I don't have enough time to do them all. So we'll have a look at the most popular ones. The ones that seem to attract the most attention. Starting off with Brutus, who says, I have a theory that DLC characters being added to the single player mode takes them longer to fully come out. I'd appreciate if the characters either didn't get added to single player or at a later time so they can be released earlier. I'm not sure I agree with this. I'm no expert on the character design process. You know, I don't work at Capcom, but I don't think huge amounts of dev time are going towards the single player stuff. Like most of the dev time is almost certainly going to the actual character animations, like making their moveset, that kind of stuff. I don't think it's significantly slowing the process down to add the character to World Tour with a couple of quests and a couple of cutscenes. It's not like a huge amount of content they do for World Tour. World Tour is pretty bare bones. We are still on schedule, so I mean this is possible, but it doesn't seem that likely to me. I feel like people complain too much about this game. The drive system genuinely has incredible potential. Some things just need to be toned down to fully bring that out. I wouldn't be surprised if later seasons of this game is one of the best fighting games ever made. I agree, obviously, with this. I think most people would agree with this. Doesn't strike me as a particularly hot take. But I think something I've realized recently is that the reason there's so much negativity around Street Fighter 6, despite the fact that it is such a solid release package, is because I think this stems from the fact that there's kind of a frustration that it's so close to being great that is more frustrating than if it was just bad. Does that make sense? Like, very nearly a great game, but just not quite. It's just we're almost there. So I do agree that it is close to being great, but I feel like that sense of frustration that it's nearly great is what is driving a lot of the narrative right now. And also, it's just boredom. Yeah, it's been so long since we had a major update for this game that people are just kind of looking to other things now. And, you know, Tekken's just come out. There's a lot of other toys to play with right now. So I think that's also driving it as well. Playing it safe and banking heavily on nostalgia, bringing back every World Warrior made the vanilla roster incredibly dull. And Season 1's character spread is also really disappointing. Who wanted a Fang replacement? I hope you're not talking about who I think you're talking about when you said that question. I want you to think very carefully about what you're implying with that part of the question. Also, fuck parry, easily the worst mechanic I've ever had to endure. You know, I was on board with this. I was on board with Frost right up until this point here. I could see where you were coming from, but of all the characters to point out as a bad addition to Street Fighter 6, why would you go for Aki? She's one of the coolest characters in the game. You're really gonna go for Aki when, like, Lily exists? Lily is duller than dishwater. Why would you go for Aki? But yeah, I mean, there was quite a lot of questions, generally, and takes in the replies, talking about the World Warriors. I think some people said they don't want to see Dalsim in any future games, because he's just not that popular. Some people said they don't want to see, you know, Blanca or E Honda. I think Dalsim needs to stay in. I think Dalsim represents like an important archetype, even if I don't particularly like him in this game. I can see an argument though for getting rid of one of Blanca or Honda though. I don't know which one, but I don't feel like we need both Blanca and Honda. But yeah, there's been a lot of criticism of the roster in general. The other thing that comes up a lot is a lot of people complain about the lack of third strike characters, and I agree with that as well. The fact that there's not a single Street Fighter 3 character in either the base roster or the first year of DLC is a huge miss, as far as I'm concerned. Donna Ken says, I think projectile perfect parries vary too much in difficulty for something that feels like a prerequisite in high-level matches, and their difficulty in executing them should be normalized somewhat. Meaty projectiles feel fine, super slow fireball is a nightmare. This I kind of agree with in some regards, and I disagree in others. It is true that slow projectiles are very hard to perfect parry in this game. It's particularly ones with misleading animations, like Chun's. It depends a bit on the animation. Like, let me just show you real quick in game. Aki's fireball, I feel like even though it's slow, it's quite easy to perfect parry because it's a nice round shape, so it's very easy to figure out, I think, where the hitbox is and when it's going to make contact. And that makes it more intuitive how to perfect parry it, or the timing. The one that I find easily the hardest in the entire game. Chun-Li's has this big over-the-top, like, projectile particle effect. And it's not exactly clear exactly where the hitbox is, and also that happens. This is a separate rant right now, but I absolutely hate this. How many times have you guys tried to perfect parry that, and then it suddenly disappears in front of you? And you lose a bunch of drive gauge, and you're also stuck to the floor because you can't move. It's so annoying. I really think this fireball needs to be changed. At the very least, they need to make it so that the moment the hitbox disappears from this thing, the animation should also disappear much faster. Because right now, as you can see, the fireball kind of like slowly fades away once it's run out. But it takes way too long for the animation to play out. So yeah, it's so easy to get stuck trying to parry this thing. But that's a slightly unrelated rant. Yeah, but I do agree that it is much harder to perfect parry slow fireballs, but I don't think that's really an issue. In fact, it's in some ways I kind of like that. Street Fighter 6 doesn't have very many things that reward high-level execution. So perfect parrying slow projectiles, I think, is very satisfying when you do manage to get it. Like, let me show you a clip. So I uploaded this highlight a few days ago. Did this just end in 2 interactions? No, it ended in 3, you idiot. Learn to count. Alright. So I did a fun like 2.5 touch sequence on Chun-Li, but like to me the most satisfying part of this entire sequence is not actually the big fancy combo at the end. It was this bit right here. Getting the perfect parry on the slow fireball and then counter hitting the drive rush behind it. That's like high level Street Fighter 6 and it's so satisfying when you do it. So I don't know, I think it's fine the way it is. A lot of people have complaints about perfect parry, but I think perfect parry on fireballs is actually quite fun to use at the moment. Had to accept the game isn't SF5 too, but it's still good. Drive rush fireball has to go though. A lot of people don't like drive rush fireball. I assume when you say drive rush fireball, you mean fireball plus drive rush, the other way around, I'm guessing. But you gotta remember that if you nerf something like fireball plus drive rush because you think Guile or Chun-Li are too strong, you gotta remember that some characters, I'm not saying names, some characters, perhaps ones that like using poison, will also take collateral damage from that change. Just saying, you gotta be a bit careful about how you nerf because, you know, just any character, you know, any character could catch a stray because you found Guile too annoying, so, yeah, but no, I'm not naming any names. James Chen says, apparently mine is that OD amnesia isn't the problem with JP and doesn't need nerfs. But my other one is every character needs some form of OD wake up, or when you take a throw, you should be +3, so you're rewarded for such a super risky option, and it nerfs throw loops. I guess we'll do this in 2 halves. OD amnesia isn't the problem with JP and doesn't need nerfs. I don't know if I agree with that. It's not the problem. You know, like fixing, or nerfing, I should say, OD amnesia doesn't just like fix JP. It's part of it though. It's part of it. I do think OD amnesia is too strong. And I say this as a former JP main, although some of the suggestions for how to nerf it have been insane. I think the way that I would nerf OD amnesia if it was me, number one, we need to reduce the active frames on this counter. That's like, for me, first and foremost, why is it that like half the time, if I try to shimmy JP, it still activates the counter because it's got like 1 billion active frames? Yeah, a counter that gives you that much reward should not be active for 20 frames. There's no way. And the second thing I would do, a lot of people talk about reducing the combo potential off it because you get like 50% off a throw punish. You can go that route, potentially, but I think for me, the more important nerf is making the bombs despawn if he gets hit. Because how many times have you been in a situation like this where you knock down JP, you meet him with a jab, and then you hit him again, and that happens? Like, at that point, you've effectively made like 3 correct decisions in a row. You got the knockdown, correct decision number 1. You baited out the counter by doing a low recovery move, number 2. And then you caught him not blocking again after that, number 3. You have made 3 correct decisions in a row. You deserve some kind of reward for that. And the rewards you get are so limited. A couple of characters have like decent anti-amnesia options. Like you can do stuff like this. You can do jab level 1, but that is way too much for how little risk JP is taking here. So I just think that like, if JP gets hit, the bombs should just despawn. But like, the thing is, I don't know if that alone would make people okay with JP. I feel like JP's archetype is just very divisive to begin with. You know, even if they nerf the shit out of EX Amnesia, like people are saying, I think you'll still see a lot of people complaining about this character. Because if you just kill OD Amnesia, he's still going to be extremely strong. Because that's not his only strength. Like, it's the one that you see complained about the most. But his real strengths are like his completely disjoint buttons. Crouch medium punch is obscene. Checking drive rush crouch medium punch is a nightmare. Stand fierce is just like flail all day and just convert into combos. Level 2, oh man. I could write a 2,000 word essay on this stupid super. Probably the best super in the game, or maybe second best behind Rashid. Yeah, it's not just this. The right way to nerf JP, I won't go through the whole list right now, but would be lots of little tweaks to almost all parts of his kit, rather than just delete OD Amnesia. What was the other one? Every character needs some form of OD wake up, or when you tech a throw, you should be +3, so you're rewarded for such a super risky option, and it nerfs throw loops. I think we need to nerf throw loops. I don't think this is the right way to go about it. I just think we need to get rid of throw loops. I've seen so many suggestions about how like we can kind of keep throw loops, but like tone them down a little bit. I just think we need to get rid of throw loops. I hate them. They suck. And there was a lot of talk in the replies about throw loops. Some people saying they're necessary, some people saying they're not necessary, we should get rid of them. My argument is this, it's a really simple one. Regardless of whether you think throw loops are necessary from a balance perspective, they are boring to watch, they are boring to use, they don't take any mechanical skill to use, and they are just a brain-dead 50-50 over and over and over and over again. They hurt the game from a fun perspective, and they hurt the game from a viewer perspective. That's why I want them gone. Like I can train like a low to mid-level player to throw loop someone in about 5 minutes, and they're just as threatening suddenly as like a top-level player in the corner. It's just coin flip into coin flip into coin flip. So yeah, I want to see throw loop gone. I don't really care about the balance of throw loops. I just think they're not healthy for the game and they're not fun. People need to talk more about fun, I think, when it comes to balance patches. Every single discussion about balance patches is always done through the context of like, well, balance, I guess. But to me, a patch should not just be about balance. It should also be about improving the gameplay experience, making the game more fun, and making it more interesting. And throw loops do not make the game fun, and they do not make the game interesting. That's all it comes down to for me. We should start calling them fun patches. True. When are they patching in more fun? Nerf Lily? I think she's weak, but I still don't like her. I don't like Lily either. I think Lily really could use like a complete redesign. She's such a one-dimensional character. I don't want to see her nerfed, but I would like to see her changed pretty significantly, because like all her gameplay really is just like get wind charges, get wind charges, get wind charges, and then just go like this. And then if they block it, if they block your YOLO Spire, it's like SPD or button. And then get wind charges, gorilla. She's so boring. She's so one-dimensional. She is like the most simplified idea of what like a 50-50 grappler should be. Yeah, this is my entire Lily tutorial. If you guys want to learn how to play Lily, this is all you have to do. Get wind charges and then do EX Spire. I don't think she's an especially strong character. Like I say, I don't think she's overpowered or even she's not even particularly good at all. I just think she's so lazily designed. So I would really like to see Lily get an overhaul that maybe gives her a bunch more moves and a bunch more combo potential and stuff and more versatility, but maybe tones down the just one-dimensional like EX Spire 50-50 gameplay. If his level 1 and his chop TC worked, Zangief would be balanced. I like this suggestion. I think Zangief's medium punch target combo is one of the worst design moves in the game. This thing right here. Gief generally in this game does not have hit confirms without spending loads of bar. Like, other than doing like a drive rush cancel, he doesn't really have any way to start a combo from distance. Apart from this thing. And the idea with this target combo, or at least my understanding of this thing, is that you press medium punch 3 times and he does 3 slaps, but the first and second hits don't actually combo. So if I turn on block after first hit, this is never actually a combo, even though it's a target combo. The idea is that this only combos either with counter hit, punish counter, or drive rush advantage. So it feels like because of that decision, you would think to yourself, okay, that means that probably Capcom wants you to use it as like a whiff punish in neutral, because it's got good range. Yeah, here's the problem. If you manage to whiff punish something with the stand medium punch at the range where you would expect a whiff punish with it, the rest of it just drops. And you're stuck chopping the air, and if you do this, I should point out, Gief is minus 21 if he whiffs the second hit. You can drive rush in with like a heavy if he whiffs this target combo. Anytime you guys are fighting against Gief and you get hit by stand medium punch in neutral, you might as well just do a drive rush afterwards, because either he lands the combo and it doesn't matter, or you get a fat punish because his medium punch doesn't work very well. Again, like as you can see, like off drive rush, it's not very consistent. You have to be like much closer than you expect for this thing to work. So yeah, I just think this target combo should stay counter hit only. That makes sense to me, but it absolutely should like cause Gief to move forward a bit so that like even at max range, all 3 hits should connect. Oh, his level 1? Yeah, his level 1 also could use some help. I just think this thing needs to have a bigger hitbox so that it grabs more jump angles, and it also needs to be much faster, because right now it's not a grab until frame 11. The amount of times I've seen Gief players do like this, and that happens, is kind of stupid. This thing should be like, I don't know, 7 frames, something like that. But yeah, Gief could use some help, but most of it is like, I feel like most of Gief's change list should just be a case of like making his kit work. Not really buffing him, just fixing the stuff that is outright broken to begin with. Because his kit is actually not bad on paper. If you look at it on paper, he's actually not a bad character. It's just that most of his stuff just doesn't really work very well, the way you would expect it to. Not specific to 6, but I dislike the idea that X character can't be in the game because Y character exists. Because we're okay with 5 Shotos, but we can't have 2 ninjas or 2 grapplers. I agree with this, and this has come up a lot lately because people, whenever the topic comes up of adding like Ibuki or Guy or Zeku comes up, someone will immediately come through and tell you we can't have those characters because Kimberly is in the game. And I can kind of maybe see that opinion if it's like Kimberly and Guy, because Kimberly is literally like Guy's apprentice and they are very similar. But at a certain point, you are just, like, comparing very different characters. Like, I've never understood that one that's, like, Ibuki would be too similar to Kimberly. Like, I have to assume you've never played Ibuki if you say that. Kimberly and Ibuki are very... Other than both being ninjas, they have nothing else in common. Gameplay-wise, you know, game plan-wise, they're very, very different characters. So I kind of agree with this. Whenever people say things like, don't nerf DJ, bring all the weaker characters up to his level, I have to disagree. The idea that if everyone is broken, then nobody is broken is a flawed idea. True. I cannot stand that thing people say where they say, don't nerf anyone, just buff the bottom tiers and make everyone strong. It's like, it sounds nice on paper, it sounds like a good idea on paper, but in practice that is not how balance works. For Street Fighter, let me be absolutely clear. The philosophy of making every character top tier and every character broken is good for a game like Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where every character is full of bullshit. Like 90% of the characters in that game can TOD you from round start. They can do 1 million damage off the first combo in the game and kill you. In a game like Marvel 3, making everyone busted, good. In a game like Street Fighter, making every character busted, terrible. So bad for the game. You need to find like a middle ground. You need to bring the top tiers down a little bit, and you need to bring the bottom tiers up a little bit. You need to meet in the middle. I think people, including me initially, were too harsh on the soundtrack. Oh man, this is where the real Fantano hours are kicking in. We're talking about the soundtrack. There are some bangers, and the fact that the stage themes and character themes are dynamic, I think is really neat. No. There was a lot of people with similar things talking about in the replies. I had a lot of people telling me that the initial negative reaction to the soundtrack was overblown and it's actually good. No, it isn't. It's not. It's really not. It's such a bad soundtrack. There are a couple of good tracks. Okay? I'm not saying the game has like nothing going for it in the sound department. Like, what's it called? The French stage, Fête Foraine, what's it called? That one's quite good. That's the one that people usually cite as being like one of the better tracks in the soundtrack. Yeah, Fête Foraine is a good track. There's a few stage themes which are decent. But I'm sorry, but like 3 or 4 stage themes which are good does not offset the dozens of character themes that suck and are forgetful and boring. And to me, it's become even more obvious recently because I've been playing a lot of Tekken 8. Like once you've jumped into Tekken 8 for an hour and you get used to that game's soundtrack and then you come back to Street Fighter 6, it sounds even worse. Also, Tekken 8, by the way, has the best jukebox of any fighting game I've ever played. Like Tekken 8 has a jukebox setting that lets you choose music from every single Tekken game on top of the base Tekken 8 soundtrack. It is so good. They should add that to this game, honestly. I want to see Street Fighter 5 music in 6. I want to see Street Fighter 4. I want to see a jukebox option for Third Strike and even Second Impact. Second Impact deserves more credit, by the way. I'm just putting that out there real quick. Second Impact, if they ever do a jukebox mode, I really hope they include Second Impact and don't just give it all to Third Strike. There's a reason this is the theme they used in Street Fighter 5 for Gil and not his Third Strike theme. This shit goes hard as fuck. This is kind of interesting, this one. For a game that's so visually clear and well thought out for modern times, the juggle system remains archaic and horrendously unintuitive. There's no visual indicators if moves will juggle. Moves randomly have different properties and casuals have to learn it outside the game. This one's kind of interesting to me, because this is how I've been feeling recently about Tekken. Funnily enough. I guess it's because I'm a Street Fighter player, and I've been playing Street Fighter for a million billion years, and I kind of have like an intuitive understanding of how juggles work in Street Fighter, so it doesn't seem weird to me, because I'm used to it. But having played Tekken recently, I realized I have no idea what the rules are for juggles in that game. People are like, oh, that juggle doesn't work because you've already used up your corkscrew, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? So I guess the same is true in reverse. I don't think this is a Street Fighter specific issue though. I think most fighting games do a terrible job of explaining how juggles work. Juggle limits, juggle counts, things that aren't even visible to the player. They should have it in training mode, I think. Training mode should show you somewhere in the overlay, if you have it turned on, the current juggle count, juggle state, juggle points, things like that, so that you can kind of piece it together. But yeah, Street Fighter does have some very weird rules about juggles. Like, let me show you one. This is like a really important thing to learn with Aki, and the game does not tell you this anywhere. There is not a single place in game where you can learn this information. You have to just learn it from being told or figuring it out yourself. All right, so let me show you an Aki combo real quick. That was the old stun combo. We've changed it a bit since then, but that was the old stun combo we used to use before it got optimized a bit. And I used to get comments all the time about this combo. People could not get it to work, and they didn't understand why it was working, specifically this part. So when you get to here, I had so many people asking me, why does the drive rush forward heavy kick work there? They've been trying for hours, they can never get it, they think they're timing it wrong. And the reason the drive rush heavy kick works there is nothing to do with the drive rush heavy kick. It's because about 5 moves earlier in the combo, so right here, this EX chain on an already poisoned opponent has a weird property where it completely refreshes the juggle state back to 0. So all of the stuff that I've done up to that point in the combo is like wiped from the juggle state, and I'm basically starting a new juggle again. Nowhere in the game does it tell you that. There is nowhere in the game notes or details that explains this. So like, for example, I can do a jab there. Even though we're deep into a juggle, I can reset with a jab because we're back to juggle state 0. And it is vital, it is absolutely vital as a part of her combos to understand that property. If you want to optimize Aki combos, you need to know that. But it doesn't tell you that anywhere. So yeah, so I do think the game, I do agree with that take. The game should have like some way of explaining juggle states, or maybe in training mode, show you like a visual number. I'll leave with this one. I think Street Fighter 6 is a good game. Most controversial take of the day. I agree, Street Fighter 6 is a good game. I have a lot of complaints about it. But to me, like for me specifically, I think sometimes I like to criticize things because I want them to be as good as they can be, you know? Maybe it seems like I spend a lot of time nitpicking Street Fighter 6, but that's because I know how much potential this game has, and I want it to be even better. If I genuinely didn't like Street Fighter 6, I just wouldn't talk about it. You know, constructive criticism of something you like is important. But yeah, Street Fighter 6 is a good game. It's a really good game, and it has the potential to be a great game. And I'm looking forward to Season 2. Although, one last thing I want to say, do not put all your eggs in one basket for Season 2. A lot of people, I'm getting concerned, seem to be, like, telling themselves that, like, Season 2 is going to fix everything. Season 2 is going to come and be the perfect balance patch. It's going to make me like the game again. It's going to give me a free back massage. It's going to nerf all those characters that I hate and buff all those characters that I like. Don't get your hopes up. I'm looking forward to Season 2 a lot, but if you go into it expecting it to be the perfect, all-knowing, all-seeing, ultimate balance patch, you're going to have a bad time. But with that being said, I think we'll leave it there for today. If you guys have got any hot takes of your own, let me know down in the YouTube comments, and I will see you guys all in the next video.